Okay, be prepared for spoilers. Lots of spoilers, character spoils. I won't tell you how it ends. You'll have to read the book for that. But I will spoil some of the book. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina. This is where we read books and talk about books. No special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy smashy stuff going on here. And I don't make good enough thumbnails to catch your attention. I don't say the right thing in the beginning of my videos, so no one knows I exist. If you could please spread the word and let people know I exist, it'd be most appreciative. This is starting my 3rd year on YouTube, and you see it took a while to get to 500. I'd never believed I would get this far. Now I'm hoping to reach 1,000. I don't know if I'll reach it. It would make a really nice birthday present. It would make a nice Christmas present. 500 was nice for this Christmas. Maybe 1,000 for next Christmas. We'll see how it goes. So we are doing book 14 of Mercy Thompson's Patricia Briggs series. And this is the last book for a while. No idea when the next book will come out. When 15 will hit the bookshelves. It might be a year or so. It was a year between this one and Soul Taken. And there are a lot of threads in this. One is completed, but the rest are left open for future books. There are chapters. I gotta get rid of this. There are chapters, and then there are interludes in between the chapters, and it's stuff that is either happening in another place or stuff that's happened previously in the storyline. Some of it's 6 months ago, some of it's last week, some of it's with other characters. So the interludes, it's a different timeline with those, but the main chapters follow the same timeline. So we have Mercy just doing her job in the repair shop with Z, and you know that Z is a Fae, and he's a very powerful Fae, and his son Tad is also, even though he's human, he's got lots of Fae powers. And Mercy, of course, is our mechanic and walker, and Adam is her husband, and Jessie is his biological daughter from his first marriage. And we have pack members Honey and Mary Jo, and a couple of others that make appearances, but there's not too much local. This is what I would consider an out-of-town book, sort of, kind of. There is Warren and Daryl and Oriel and a few others. And I learned that Honey is quite old, because she starts the story later in the book, centuries ago, and you're like, huh? So obviously she's a little older than we thought. So we first start this series, yes, ma'am, this book with the repercussions from the last book. Mercy still has holes. Anita Blake would also have these holes. She talked about them in Narcissus in Chains. Her spiritual guide told her that she had some holes that she had to fill. In Anita's case, it was Adam, Jean Claude, and Richard. In Mercy's case, it's more mental and spiritual and physical that have to be tied up. She's having massive headaches. She's not doing well physically. She's not doing well mentally. She's got some problems going on there. Adam has tried to fix her. Z has tried to fix her. Some people have tried, but nobody can fix her. And apparently, so far, only the person that did it to her can fix it. And so Mercy is having some hard times mentally and physically. She's also there's a small setup, and it's a setup, and that's it, because we won't know the outcome for until the future book, and even we might not get an answer in the next book. We might have to wait a book or two. But Mercy in the beginning starts off, Mary Jo has asked for a meeting. And Mary Jo doesn't particularly like Mercy. She is a Christie fan, and Christie was Adam's first wife. So she asks for a meeting, and they meet at Uncle Mike's. And I'm not sure. Future down the road, we know what the reason was as readers. We are not told in the beginning why the meeting was set up at Uncle Mike's. But that's where Mary Jo and Mercy meet. And I was trying to figure out why they were meeting at Uncle Mike's of all places. And so I didn't understand it till much, much later in the series, in the book, that why they had met at Uncle Mike's. So that's one thing to pay attention to, the stuff at Uncle Mike's. And not particularly between Mercy and Mary Jo. There's some other surrounding stuff that's a little bit on the important side to pay attention to. So then while Mercy is at the bar with Mary Jo, Gary, her brother, shows up at her house. And Adam, because it's so close to the full moon, and Gary, because he's not in his own headspace, he's got a spell on him. They take a little bit of a tumble, Adam and Gary. When the dust settles, Adam has Mercy come home, and she tries to get to Gary, and then they have Honey try to get to Gary, and Mary Jo try to get to... So then they discover, they have Z come over and say that there's a spell on Gary, and the only person that can take the spell off is the person that put it on. And then they call this other guy in, and he gives them some long-winded thing, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with him, some double speak here. And he says, well, you have to go see my brother. And so his brother lives in this cabin up in the mountains. And in the meantime, there are a couple of side stories. There's about 3 or 4 side stories. One of the side stories is a Mexico part that's really not, it's just a side story for this book. But there is another side story, the Bonaretta, the vampire from Europe that we talked about. We've talked about him for a few books now. They had an encounter with him about 2 or 3 books ago. And he's been stalking Mercy in the last book, and he is still doing stuff to her in this book. He is torturing people. He's calling Mercy, and he's letting her listen to torture going on. And if Mercy hangs up, then things get worse for the torture victim. But as long as Mercy keeps the phone open, then things go a little bit better for the torture victim. And it's with Mercy, with her mental issues and her physical issues, this is eating her alive. But then they get distracted by this issue with Gary, and they go off to the mountains to solve that issue. So that's basically your book right there. Let me just check my notes here. I always say, if you read a book and then put it down and you can talk about what it was about, it was a good book. But if you read a book, put it down, and were like, and have to pick it up, and yeah, I remember now. If that happens, it wasn't a good book. So some of the stuff with Mercy is because of the sickle from the soul taker. And this thing with the car in the beginning was I don't know if I didn't understand it personally. So on the stuff with Mexico is a side story. I wouldn't worry about too much about that. I want those. So yeah, that's about it. There's a lot of other stuff going on that probably will be open for future books. So yeah, we don't need that. I pretty much covered it all. So that's basically it. We don't know what happened with Mary Jo. That's left open for a next book. The Mexico thing is pretty much wrapped up here. But the Bonetta is left open. So we'll have to wait till the next book to find out what happens with that. I'm still not sure what happened with the car in the beginning of the book. And we'll have to see what happens with a couple of other things that occur in this book too that are left open. And I'm curious about Tad and Izzy's relationship too. So that should be interesting. So I'm doing a bunch of oneers this week. If you haven't seen my video for the Atlas maneuver, you've got to check that out. And I think we're going to get to Nora Roberts' mirror this week too. And don't forget to Star Trek Next Generation is on Friday. If Then's on Friday. And Romantic Time Book Review Flashback or Throwback Mondays. And those books are still available today. Some of those had this series in them. So please go check those out. We started with 2007 and we're working our way up to 2016. And I've got some top 10s coming up, so please check those out. Please hit the like and subscribe. Thank you.